Forcing results feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels like you're doing what you're supposed to do. But beneath that surface, forcing is one of the fastest ways to disconnect from your natural flow. And most people don't realize it until they're already exhausted, frustrated, and stuck. Think about a time when you wanted something too badly: a promotion, a relationship, financial stability, creative success. You planned everything, you pushed harder, you monitored every outcome, and instead of things moving faster, everything felt heavier. Resistance increased, mistakes multiplied, motivation dropped. That wasn't bad luck, that was force replacing alignment. Flow is subtle. It doesn't respond well to pressure. Flow emerges when effort and trust are balanced. Forcing breaks that balance. It turns every moment into a test and every delay into a threat. When you force results, you stop listening, you only measure, and life doesn't work well when it's treated like a machine instead of a living process. There's a clear example many people overlook: creativity. The best ideas never arrive when you're staring at the clock demanding them to appear. They come in the shower, on a walk, in moments where you're engaged but not gripping. The moment you say, "This must work now," creativity tightens. The same applies to life decisions, relationships, and even healing. Forcing creates a false sense of control. It convinces you that tension equals progress. But tension only signals fear: fear of falling behind, fear of missing out, fear of not being enough. And fear cannot lead flow. It only accelerates burnout. You can see this clearly in people who are constantly doing but never arriving, always busy, always optimizing, always chasing the next outcome, yet deeply tired, deeply disconnected, deeply frustrated. They aren't lazy, they're over-forcing. They've mistaken pressure for purpose. Flow doesn't mean doing nothing. That's a common misunderstanding. Flow means acting from clarity instead of desperation, from intention instead of panic, from presence instead of obsession with results. When you force, you're living in the future. When you flow, you're fully here. And paradoxically, that's when things move faster. There's also an emotional cost to forcing. You become impatient with yourself, with others, with timing. You interpret pauses as failures and redirections as setbacks. But many delays aren't blocks, they're calibrations. Forcing ignores that. It tries to break doors that were meant to open naturally. If this is already resonating with you, take a second to support the channel. Leave a like and subscribe. It helps this message reach people who may be stuck in the same cycle of pushing and burning out without understanding why. One of the clearest signs you're forcing is this feeling. No matter what you achieve, it's never enough. The satisfaction window keeps shrinking. You move the goalpost the moment you get close. That's because forced outcomes don't nourish you, they drain you. They come from tension, not truth. Flow, on the other hand, feels lighter even when the work is hard. You're tired but not empty, challenged but not lost. Progress feels organic, not desperate. And most importantly, you don't feel like you're fighting life every step of the way. For now, sit with this question. Where in your life are you pushing instead of listening? Don't answer it quickly. Let it settle. That answer doesn't respond to force either. When you stop forcing, something unexpected happens. Resistance dissolves. Not all at once, not magically, but consistently. You begin to notice that many of the obstacles you were fighting weren't external at all. They were internal pressure disguised as discipline. Forcing creates urgency where none is needed. It makes every step feel like a deadline. And deadlines, when self-imposed and emotionally charged, distort perception. You stop seeing opportunities. You only see outcomes. You stop adapting. You only push. That's when flow collapses. Look at how nature operates. Nothing in nature forces growth. A seed doesn't panic because it hasn't sprouted yet. A river doesn't rush because it hasn't reached the ocean. Growth happens through cooperation with timing, not domination over it. When humans forget this, they start treating life like a race instead of a rhythm. This is especially visible in personal goals. Someone decides they must fix their life immediately. They overhaul everything at once. New routines, new mindset, new identity. At first, motivation is high. Then reality hits. Energy drops. Consistency fades. Guilt replaces curiosity. And the person concludes they lack discipline when in truth they lacked patience. Flow requires trust in process. Forcing demands guarantees, and life doesn't offer guarantees. It offers feedback. When you force, you ignore feedback. When you flow, you adjust. There's also a relational dimension to this. You cannot force connection. You cannot force respect. You cannot force love. The more you chase, the more you destabilize the dynamic. True connection forms when there's space to respond, to choose, to feel safe. Pressure suffocates that space. Flow sustains it. Even in work and money, forcing backfires. People who obsess over results often miss leverage, timing, and intuition. They exhaust themselves trying to control variables that were never meant to be controlled. Meanwhile, those who move with awareness, acting decisively but not desperately, often appear lucky. They're not. They're aligned. Alignment doesn't remove effort, it removes friction. That's the difference. A clear sign you're aligned is this. You can pause without anxiety. You can rest without guilt. You can say no without fear. When you're forcing, rest feels dangerous. Pauses feel like failure. Silence feels like loss of control. Flow reverses that relationship. It makes stillness productive. This is a good moment to interrupt the cycle. If you feel this message applying directly to your life, take a second to like the video and subscribe. It supports content that encourages depth over urgency and clarity over pressure. Ask yourself honestly, what am I trying to make happen before I'm ready to receive it? That question alone dissolves a surprising amount of tension, because often what you want isn't blocked by lack of effort, it's blocked by lack of space. When you finally release the need to force outcomes, you don't become passive, you become precise. Your energy stops leaking into panic, overthinking, and unnecessary urgency. Instead, it consolidates. And that's when flow becomes not just a concept, but a lived experience. One of the biggest illusions forcing creates is the belief that more pressure equals more progress. In reality, pressure clouds perception. You start misreading signals. You confuse discomfort with failure and calm with stagnation. But calm is often a sign that you're exactly where you need to be. Flow feels quiet, not dramatic, and that's why people who are addicted to intensity often miss it. Think about athletes at the highest level. The best performances don't come from tension, they come from presence. The moment an athlete overthinks, forces a move, or panics about the outcome, precision disappears. Life works the same way. Whether it's a conversation, a decision, or a long-term goal, flow requires attention without grip. Forcing also disconnects you from intuition. Intuition doesn't speak loudly, it doesn't argue, it nudges. It shows up as a subtle pull or resistance. When you're forcing, you override those signals because you've already decided how things should go. Flow asks a different question. What's actually happening right now, and how can I respond intelligently? This shift alone changes everything. You stop asking, how do I make this work faster, and start asking, what's the most aligned next step? That question reduces mistakes, preserves energy, and builds momentum naturally. There's an emotional maturity that comes with flow. You stop taking delays personally. You stop seeing redirection as rejection. You stop attaching your worth to immediate outcomes. And when that happens, life paradoxically becomes more cooperative, not because the world changed, but because you did. This doesn't mean abandoning goals, it means releasing obsession with timelines. Goals give direction, obsession creates tension, flow lives in between. You show up, you do the work, you stay present, and you allow results to arrive through consistency rather than force. Notice how often your body already knows when you're forcing. Tight jaw, shallow breathing, constant mental rehearsal. Flow feels different, steady breath, grounded focus, clarity without rush. Your body is a far more honest guide than your anxiety. If this video has helped you recognize where forcing has been costing you clarity and peace, this is the final moment to support the channel. Like the video and subscribe. It allows this message to reach others who may be trapped in the same cycle of pressure without understanding why. So here's the closing truth. Forcing results doesn't speed life up, it fractures it. It turns progress into struggle and effort into exhaustion. Flow doesn't guarantee ease, but it guarantees coherence. Your actions make sense, your energy is conserved, your path becomes clearer. The moment you stop trying to wrestle life into submission, life stops resisting you. Let go of force. Return to flow.